Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Max's Worldview. Today I'm going to make a video about the Peruvian elections. So, recently there were the Peruvian elections between one candidate, which is of Japanese descent, and the other is more left-wing, and the Japanese one is more right-wing. And one criticism is how that the right-wing woman is the daughter, his father is very infamous in the country, but a lot of people say that he is a dictator too. So that does give an interesting depth into what happens in this unique, like, South American country. And there's an interesting history that his father did stop the crime, but he might have been a bit harsh. And it's also interesting to look at how Peru, as a South American country, has a lot of indigenous people. And these indigenous people sort of influence how their influence is still seen in the culture and the society, as they were the original people before the Spanish colonialism. And it's interesting to see this history and how it'll go. And one thing I learned that's interesting is Peru, they had a previous president who was left-wing, and his name was Pedro Castillo. But there was a controversy that this guy, Pedro Castillo, who was the last president, had tried to do an attempted coup, and it failed, but we could kind of see the influence, the consequences of what happened after that. And furthermore, I would also like to add is the unique factor is how in Peru, overseas Peruvians can still vote in the election. So a lot of people are talking about how a lot of Peruvians who live in other countries still were able to vote, and a lot of them did vote for the more right-wing candidate, who was Keiko Fujimori. And a lot of people are kind of interested to see how she'll take Peru, because she is known as just one of her father's legacy, carrying the legacy and supporting what policies he had. So I want to know how things will go in the future. And another thing I would like to add in conclusion, I think it's interesting to see how Latin American politics operate and their democracies, and how they're different from the US's, and how that whole region will be affected in the future. More factors I would also like to consider is that recently a lot of people say that Latin American countries are getting a lot of more the right-wing leaders. So hopefully we will see how this development works, and we will see the consequences of whether it's positive or negative, and what the future holds for these societies. And in general, I think that's all I like to say, and I just hope the best for the nations of South America and how they will do in the future.